Over the last 10 years, we have witnessed an increase in the importation of used vehicles. Recently, in the last 5 years, we have noticed that vehicles over 10 years started increasing in numbers. Throughout CARICOM, various member states have in place different plans to deal with the importation of vehicles. And so we looked at what the other member states were doing and decided that in Grenada we must come up with a policy to help deal with the importation of used vehicles. And the cabinet decided that vehicles older than 10 years would not be permitted to come into Grenada. There are a number of concerns here. The major one is the environment. You will see these vehicles, derelict vehicles, all over the island, and it's at cost to government to then go and clear it up. And therefore, government needs to take action now in order to stem the flow of vehicles over the age of 10. I think 10 years is reasonable because in some member states it's 5 years. And in one member state that I lived in, I know very well, it's 4 years. But government has decided, well, let's go to 10 so that the average man who wants to purchase a vehicle could still do so. So it is not to punish anyone, but it's to ensure that we regulate the industry properly.
Acting on the decision of Cabinet after consultation with all stakeholders, Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell announced in the 2020 budget presentation that vehicles 10 years and over will be officially banned from entering the shores of Grenada.
Mr. Speaker, as Grenada continues its efforts to protect the environment, by June 2020, government will introduce a ban on importation of vehicles exceeding 10 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it might not be popular, but it's right. We got to protect our country.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the implementation phase of the ban was delayed. Minister for Trade, the Honorable Oliver Joseph, explained that government needed to ensure the necessary procedures were in place for the ban to seamlessly take effect.
The Cabinet reviewed the decision and decided that importers will have up to the 31st of August to bring in these vehicles, but it must be purchased and shipped by the 15th of July. You should have placed that order for the vehicle, and you have up to the 31st of August.
The ban on vehicles 10 years and older is intended to protect the environment while at the same time help to reduce the negative effects on the pockets of prospective vehicle owners.
If you buy an old vehicle because you buy it on the basis that that is what you could afford, like buying a used tire versus a new tire. But in the long run, you'll spend more buying tires. Because if you buy a new car, you guarantee a 5-year street. I have had several new vehicles. And the first 5 years, I hardly had to spend any money on parts. But before I had vehicles over, I even drive vehicle over 10 years before. And almost every month, I have to spend money on parts, spare parts. So when you think you might be saving, only in the short run you save it, not in the long run. In the long run, you're spending more money to buy it. But it's just that at the time, people cannot afford So given the price, and vehicle is very price sensitive, so people go online and look for a vehicle 5, 6 years old that they could afford, as opposed to buying a brand new one.
According to Minister Joseph, over the last 5 years, government has seen a rapid increase in the used vehicles coming into the country.
At the end of 2018, there were 32,761 vehicles registered. I'm sure there would be some that are not registered, but we could only go by the official figure. 32,761 registered vehicles in Grenada at the end of 2018. I'm sure by now, when we get the 2019 figures, it will be more, because we are not seeing less, we are seeing more vehicles coming in. That is really in itself is not a bad thing. It shows that people have more disposable income, so they invest in the vehicle. A vehicle is a necessity. As you know, we do not have, we only have private transport. There is no public transport system. So people are tending to get their own transport, their own vehicle to move around. So it is not an attempt to stop people from purchasing their vehicle. If your standard of living increasing, your disposable earnings increasing, and you're in a good position now where financial institutions can give you a loan to buy a vehicle for your own comfort, and we welcome that in the economy.
With the implementation of the ban, the Customs and Excise Division will increase our monitoring parameters for vehicles being imported into Grenada. Now, this will not have an effect on the importer or any trader importing. It means that we will pay attention to the age of the vehicle that is being imported to ensure that it is in compliance with the new law. The time it would take to clear a vehicle or the requirements will not change. All of these will remain the same. Currently, there will be no change in the duties of the vehicles. In terms of the rate structure for vehicles 5 years and over, that will still remain in place. The difference now is not 5 years and over, it is 5 to vehicles under 10 years. Currently, there is no change. Depends on the type of vehicle, the age of the vehicle. So, for example, a vehicle that would be between 5 and now with the ban, less than 10 years. If it is a car, it would be 159.21%. There are some exemptions to the ban on vehicles. Some vehicles would be allowed, and the division is aware of that. So this would be considered when we are putting parameters in place to monitor and control the import of the vehicles. The exemptions include cars and buses specially designed for physically challenged persons, tractors for agricultural use. There's also exemptions for special purpose vehicles such as fire trucks and concrete mixers, and also for trucks that are used on the docks and on the airport. We anticipate the implementation of the ban to be a smooth process. We will work and ensure that it does not, that our internal processes does not lengthen the time to clear vehicles or in any way put any onerous burden on the importer. We will work along with the public for a smooth process and to share information that we have. The more we know, the more we'll comply. So we have again reviewed all our internal processes to ensure that the transition is smooth. We do not anticipate any additional delays. There will be no additional processes for the public to go through to clear their vehicles. We are committed to working along with the public to putting the information out there and working along with all other agencies to ensure that the ban is implemented smoothly.
The increased number of derelict vehicles that can be seen alongside the nation's roads and the growing need for disposal reflect the possible physical effect that the used vehicle trade can have on the environment. With the landfills almost at full capacity and limited disposal alternative, this waste can become a major economic burden on the country. Ms. Mona Julian, Senior Public Relations Officer of the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, which is tasked with the management of waste in Grenada, highlights some challenges to the disposal of derelict vehicles.
It is a challenge for us in that we have not had some success in terms of finding a location for doing processing of vehicles, for storage, for crushing, and for having them packed into containers and shipping out. Landfills is quite limited at this time. And of course, the whole issue of trying to extend on the life of our landfill facility. As I mentioned, we have just about 5 years left and perseverance, and we have to try as much as possible to extend on the life of our facility by limiting the amount of waste that we put in. And you would appreciate that vehicles, they are very bulky, and if we have approximately 18,000 of those out there, it would pose quite a challenge.
Ms. Julian spoke about the importance of this restriction imposed by government.
Even with the process of compacting the vehicles into metal blocks, this is also a challenge for us. It costs us to create the metal blocks, and currently there are no markets for the metal bales, and so we have also the challenge of storage space on the landfill once these vehicles are made into the metal bales. Now, that with the approximate 18,000 vehicles out on streets, on the roadsides, and on private properties, etc., there is the public health issues associated with them being out in the public and us not being able to adequately cater for treating them and getting them off island. The presence on our roadsides would contribute to the traffic hazards, the public health issues as they relate to harborage of pests such as the rats and so on, and leptospirosis and other rat-borne diseases, and of course the annual outbreak of dengue fever and the other mosquito-borne diseases.
Reducing the risk of lower air quality due to dangerous emissions caused by older vehicles are among some of the benefits that government looks forward to achieving from the ban, taking also into account other related issues. As part of this initiative, a 50% duty and tax-free concession on the importation of electric and hybrid vehicles will also be implemented. Government believes that newer model vehicles are designed to be more environmentally friendly and fuel efficient, thus will result with lower emissions.
Also by June 2020, government will introduce a 50% duty reduction on the importation of electric and hybrid vehicles.
Implementation of this ban will see government placing emphasis on supporting the formal training of mechanics and other related technicians in the maintenance of these modern technology vehicles through the National Trading Agency and other vocational institutions, and the development of recycling infrastructure for electric vehicle batteries. This is where we come to the end of our Inside Finance program. Inside Finance, an inside look into the nation's business. I am Ruth Roberts. Thank you so much for joining us. Please join us again next time.